Alright, so we got the mag well completed. Let's work on the lower receiver assembly. So let's do it as a separate object. I'll do a cube, scale it down, and right there looks good. Come to side view, grab in the Y, and the assembly is actually thinner than the mag well. And then the trigger guard is actually thinner than the lower assembly, so they get progressively smaller. Somewhere around there probably, maybe a little bit more. I think that's good starting off. We have non-uniform scale, so we'll do Control A, apply scale, and we're good there. Tab into edit mode, Alt Z for transparency, 1 for vertex select. I'll grab these vertices, G to grab, bring them out here, and then I'll E to extrude to this back part right here. Now I gotta think about these cutouts here. So what we'll do is we'll start adding our loop cuts so we can handle those. So I'll add one at the top. And the next one's right there. And we'll do this one center here. And then another Control R for this one right here. And then we need vertical cuts as well. So we'll line one right there. Line another right there. Alright, and that looks pretty good. The way we'll do it, we'll go to Edge Select, hold Alt, we'll select one of our edge loops, do Control B for a bevel, roll it to 3 segments, so it looks like that, and just place it at the top and bottom of the loop. And then we can do that with this one here. And this one we're not going to be able to do because it's using an edge loop, so we're going to borrow that one. We'll use this one for the top of this loop, and we'll borrow this one over here. So this one's actually going to be pretty much good. It just has an extra loop, but that's fine. We also need the same thing for the verticals. So we'll hold Alt, Control B, do that there. And then Control B right there. Alright, so now let's go to face select with 3. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to press C for my circle select. And I'm just going to kind of color in these squares here. And this is not going to be perfectly to reference. That's okay. I think we'll do like that. Alright, so now you'll notice in transparency mode you'll get the front and the backs. We can right click Loop Tools to circle. And then actually let's do this, because that did a little bit of twisting. Let's deselect this bigger one here, and then let's do this one first. And then I think we will have to do these kind of individually for this bigger one. So we'll do C for circle select. Oops. There we go. Alright, let's try, see if I can rotate and correct this one. Yeah, I don't think I can. So, we'll do one at a time. And then we'll just kind of rotate it like that. Alright, that looks pretty good. All right, and then we can shift select all these. Then we can come to the other side and I'll press C for circle select, make it a little bit quicker. Press I to inset. And now we can only do one side at a time, so I will deselect and then go to my circle select. And we're going to press E to extrude it in, and then X to delete faces. We'll add a Control 2, and then a shade smooth. Let's come to the other side here. C for circle select. Okay, we'll E to extrude, X delete faces, and then that gets us where we need to be there. Now we got to add in a cylinder object, so we'll go 2 for edge select. We'll hold Alt, Shift S, cursor to selected, so it's kind of in the middle. We'll tab into object mode, Shift A. We're going to add a cylinder. I'm going to do 32 segments. Rotate X 90 degrees. I'm going to scale it down. Probably somewhere around there. And then I'm also going to scale in the Y, because I don't need it to be too big. Maybe somewhere like right around there. Now again, it has non-uniform scale and rotation, so Control A, rotation scale. That way I can tab, go to 2 for edge select, select this top edge and add a chamfer. Control B for our chamfer there. And then you can just right click, shade smooth, go to your data object properties, auto smooth, and that'll clean that up pretty good. And you can scale it so you can see some of the, I guess the inside, your bevel, maybe somewhere around there. Actually what I'll do is probably push it in further so it's kind of like that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And then if you wanted to, I think you can even add a small chamfer. That might look pretty good. Alright, but let's go ahead, before we forget, let's add a mirror modifier. We'll mirror in the Y. We'll select the lower assembly, so it automatically puts one there. And then we're just going to duplicate that. We're going to scale Shift Y. So around there. Scale Shift Y. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. We'll select here. We're going to Alt. Do Alt select. And we're just going to add a couple more bevels on the insides of our cutouts here. And I should be able to, oh, my clamp is on. There we go. Alright, looks pretty good so far. Let's tab into edit mode again. We'll go 3 face select. I'm going to select these top faces. Press X, delete them. Then what we're going to do is we'll go to edge select. We'll shift select here. Shift S, cursor to selected. Tab back into object mode. Shift A. And we're going to add a cylinder. We're going to do 24 vertices this time. Rotate it on the Y by 90 degrees. And then we're just gonna scale it down to match this point here. So that looks probably pretty good. Scale on the X, somewhere around there. Line it up there. And then I'll press Control A, apply the location rotation. Actually, sorry, the scale and rotation. And then what we can do is go to face select. Oops. Edit mode 3 for face select. We can delete the front and back faces. And then we can also delete these bottom 4 faces. And now we can shift select, Control J to join them so they're one object. Shade smooth. Tab into edit mode, and we can figure out how to join these two pieces together. So, looks like we already have 2 segments, so we can just shift select M, merge at last, and then shift select merge. Oops. At last. Shift merge at last, and shift select merge at last. And now we kind of have that sort of shape here. Now what we can do is we're going to select these vertices and GG to edge slide them, and then we're just going to deselect vertices as we just fill out this kind of loop here. Like so. We now need to fill in the back portion, so we can select the vertice here, shift select, press F, and that'll join and create a nice line. And then we get stuck right about there, so we won't be able to do that. So we'll go to edge select and then shift, and then we're just going to fill in some of these faces here now as we build up the selection. And we can shift select multiple faces and then have it fill, and it will figure that part out. Now we need a loop cut in the middle. And then we're also going to need a couple on the sides, but I think before I do that, I am going to come to front view again. I'm going to see if I can figure out this curve. So we'll do Control R. I'm going to push this really close to the front. And then a Control R, push this really close to the back. And then going to select this middle vertex here, Shift S, cursor there. I'm going to set my pivot point to be 3D cursor. And then I'm going to select all of these vertices. I'm going to scale in the Z axis and kind of bring this up. And then I can use that same pivot point, and we can actually select these vertices over here. And then we're going to scale in the Z, kind of push these up. It kind of looks like that. And now what you can do is we can select this vertex, Shift S, cursor there, and then you can Control click and build out this middle ring. And then you can scale in the Z and push that down. So you kind of have this little rounded edge here. And then I'm gonna press Control R, add a loop there, and then Control R, add a loop there. And then I just need to connect these triangles at the top. I'm not gonna be able to stick fully with quads on this one. And now I need to figure out the shading issue there. Let's do face orientation, maybe not that. Oh, that's why. So let's delete this face. To edge, fill, fill, and fill. That looks a little bit better. All right, so we're getting there. Let's go ahead and add an accent piece here. What we can do is do face select, hold Alt. We'll select that inside ring here. And from what I can see on my reference image, it looks like this part kind of bows out a little bit. But it kind of doesn't bow, I guess it depends on the model, but it doesn't go all the way down. So I'm going to deselect some of these. So maybe somewhere around there. Actually, maybe I'll get rid of this too. And then we'll do I for an inset. And then you could either extrude or use Alt S and just push it out. I'm gonna try Alt S, see what that looks like. I'm gonna undo that and switch my pivot point to be individual origins. That doesn't look too bad. And if you wanted to tighten up the loops, you can just add Control R, push a loop cut there, Control R, push a loop cut back there. And that's going to define your geometry a little better. And so far we're looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and see if we can do the fire mode switch. So Alt select an inside ring here, Shift S, cursor to selected. Tab into object mode, Shift A, we'll add a circle. We'll rotate circle 90 degrees on the X, it's going to be 16 segments. I'm going to scale it down. I got the reference on another monitor here. This one's going to be a little bit weird, but I think it's about that size. So let's go ahead and tab into object mode, vertex select, face, we'll do grid fill, and then we'll rotate, hold control. Now what we want to do is we want to extrude these faces outward, but if I grab and push, it's going to be uneven. So what you can do is just do Control R, push that over, and now when you grab the faces, it actually moves evenly. And then we can select these inside faces here. Oops. And then select vertex, X, delete vertices. And then you can press A to select all, F to fill, and then you press I to inset. If it's not insetting, press B, because you probably have your boundary off. So make sure your boundary's on. And then somewhere around there. And then Control R. We'll do 3 loop cuts. And we'll do 2 for edge select. We'll hold Alt, Shift Alt, build up our selection. Control B. We'll add a small bevel. And then we'll do vertex select. We're going to select this vertex, Shift S, cursor there. Do Shift A, add a circle inside edit mode so it's part of the shape. Rotate X 90 degrees. 16 segments, we'll scale it down. gonna try to fit the shape as best we can. It looks like maybe right about there, maybe. I'll select this one vertice here. I'll do X. I'm going to delete that vertice. And then what I can do is press E to extrude. And I'm just going to extrude and match the number of vertices on this circle. And then shift select last one, press F to fill. I can't press A to select all because I just need this piece, but I can press L, which will do linked, and then I can press F to fill. So now this is one shape. Now we just need to stitch together the two meshes here, so I will shift select, merge at last. And just kind of do this around the shape. Oops. Alright, looks good. We'll go to edge select, hold Alt, Shift Alt. That builds our selection here. E to extrude, lock it on the Y. Just come back a bit. Before we fill it in, take a peek at your face orientation. You can see mine's messed up. I'm gonna press A, Shift N. Recalculates the normals, that looks good. 2, Alt, F, and that looks pretty good. Now we can turn face orientation off. Let's go 3, face select. We want all these inside faces selected, so I'm going to use Shift Alt and just build up the selection with the exception. Actually, I'm going to do all of them. Let's do, I did not want to do that. I'm going to see how this looks. Grabbing the Y. Nope, it won't let me. Okay, so I'll do Shift, Alt, deselect these two, grab in the Y, and then Shift, Alt, deselect 2 at a time, grab in the Y, and then Shift, Alt, grab in the Y, and then just repeating that. Alright, next thing we can do these two faces, extrude that out, scale X 0, scale Z, turn it into a point, 2 to edge select, select the 2 outside edges, GG, slide it back, let's create more of a point, and you can shift select all these edges over here, and then we can do a Control B, add just a bevel to smooth it out. And then we can tab, right click, shade smooth, object properties, auto smooth normal. And that shouldn't look too terrible. So we got that. We'll have to manually create a cylinder on the other side though. But before we do that, let's go ahead and I'm gonna hide this for now. We gotta create our little bumps that we see here on our reference image. Alright, so the way we're gonna do this is we'll need, I'm not gonna be able to use the exact reference, so I'm gonna have to kind of come in the middle. Scale X 0. And then I'm going to do Control R over here, scale X 0, and I'll do Shift Alt, oops, Shift Alt, select this one, do a Control B, I need 3 segments, I'm not gonna make it crazy big, maybe something around there. And Let me see where that cutout is. So I need to use the one on the top, it looks like. So that's going to be too low, so we're going to have to put another loop cut up here. Which is okay. So I think we're looking at somewhere around here. Yeah, I think that's where we're gonna go. And then if we bring that back, that's gonna be right underneath it, so that'll look good. Actually, what we could do is we could use the bottom, because that's gonna be cut out. So actually, let's do that instead. So we'll do this one and this one. The problem with this is there's some uneven segments here. So I'm gonna do Shift S, cursor there, pivot point, 3D cursor. I need to scale Z, zero these out because they need to be even. Those are even. This one is not. Shift S, cursor there, scale Z 0. Now these are perfectly even. I can shift select the outside cursor, which will automatically put it center. Scale X, hold control, give that sort of shape. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Shift S, cursor, scale X, bump it in a few, looks like 0.7. That looks good. Do 3 for face select. Press I, we'll add an inset. Then we have to use extrusion, so we're going to press E and extrude a small base. Don't go too far. And then we want to select the top faces and extrude those out further. And now what you can do is you can do a Control R and you can tighten these loops up on the sides here. Oops. And that way you kind of have this sort of peak here for the fire mode. And if you want them to be even tighter, you can add another loop cut kind of in the middle here. Maybe that's what the style you're going for. So it kind of looks like that. Nothing too crazy. And then for the other side, I was going to extrude out, but that's not going to work because of the way I had to make the circle. So I can just kind of fake it. We'll select inside ring, Shift S, cursor there, tab into object, Shift A. We'll do a cylinder. I'm going to do 32 segments. Rotate X 90. Scale it down. And then we're going to scale again, but this time in the Y. Then we're going to press Control A, apply the rotation scale, so it's a uniform. That allows me to add a bevel evenly. Or actually a chamfer, I should say. So I'm going to roll it down to one segment, just add a chamfer. And then I can shade smooth, auto smooth, grab in the Y, and just pop that in there. And that's kind of our bottom lower receiver assembly. So it's a good starting point. You can experiment with adding bevels around the certain parts of the mesh too. Like if we were to hold Alt and then Shift Alt, and maybe add this one and this one here. Kind of have this sort of selection. Actually, before I do that, let's get rid of these front faces real quick because we don't need them. X, delete faces because we're going to be joining those into the other mesh. And then 2 to edge select. Alt, Shift Alt, and Shift Alt. This may or may not look good depending on where your bevels are, but we can add a small bevel with 2 segments in a shape of 1. And maybe you like that, maybe you don't. It's entirely up to you. Oops. So we got our mag well, we got the lower receiver assembly. So we're kind of getting there.